Okay, our next presenter will be Brian Kennedy. Brian is has done numerous things in his short life, I would say, including retiring from farming with bad knees. Now, I knew he retired from hockey for bad knees, but I didn't know he get to retire from farming with bad knees. Anyways, Brian Kennedy's with Alberta Wheat Commission and is going to be speaking on their mandate.
Yes, I did retire from farming with bad knees. That was back in the days when there wasn't a lot of money to be made, and it was a good excuse to get out of the business. So one of my comments as well in listening to Martin was, show me the money. And I think it's really important that plant breeders and everybody in the industry has a clear path towards making money. If there's any farmers in here, how many of you like to lose money? No? Good. And I was just, a couple of confusing points I picked up is I have no idea what 20 tons per 20 hectares is, if anybody could translate that for me. And I'd sort of always thought that CO2, what's that? 300 bushels an acre. Good. CO2 was bad, and I'm shocked that they're releasing CO2 into their crops. And was really interesting, though, to hear a real scientist talk about real issues, and one of them is GM wheat. And I think there's no fear for wheat breeders to go down that path, and I don't think farmers really care as long as you can make money at what you're doing. So I'm here to just give you a quick update on what the Alberta Wheat Commission has been up to, and I might tell you a few things about myself. I had a dream last night that I was speaking to a group of young 20-year-old nursing students. It was a nightmare. And the reason I probably dreamed that is I lived in Japan for a number of years, and one of my side jobs was teaching at a nursing school, and it was mostly young women. And unfortunately for young women, their career paths are sort of limited and they're restricted to traditional careers. And so a room full of really sharp young women who would all be engineers or doctors in Canada. So the only thing as intimidating as that is speaking to a group of farmers and people in the ag industry. So when I was asked to speak today, I was new on the job, and the Alberta Wheat Commission is a new organization that you may not be that familiar with. And coincidentally, the title for my presentation was What's Up? And we have chosen a new name for our newsletter, and it is Wheat's Up. We had a contest running to choose the name for our newsletter. The next issue will be coming out in mid-December. It's promised by our new communications manager. We're not sure if we'll have an exclamation point or a question mark. Wheat's Up, question mark, explanation point? I don't know. So we are fully staffed now. We have a new communications manager, Amanda Ryan, who is almost as new as me, and she's trying to get everything in place as far as our newsletter and web page. And we have an older employee who is also less senior, our marketing manager, Jeff Jackson. And I'll tell you what he's been up to. He's been organizing some trade missions in cooperation with SIGI. There was a recent mission to South America, Southeast Asia. There is one now on in Europe and one next week to North Africa. And I know that sounds like we're enjoying traveling on the dime of Alberta wheat growers, but I just want to tell you how important it is. Jeff, who our marketing manager, was on the Southeast Asian tour, and you may have heard about problems with gluten strength in Canadian wheat exports over the last couple of years. and it's a huge issue there. And they're very concerned with quality, but they're very pleased with this year's quality. Although the protein is lower this year than last year and the previous couple of years, the gluten strength is better. So it's not just protein, it's the functionality of the protein. And they were very keen on meeting representatives from the Canadian wheat industry to guarantee the quality of our product. Their number one issue, or their most important thing that they kept stressing to Jeff in all the countries he visited, was quality, quality, quality. And a warning for us not to go down the path of Australia and throw our quality out the window. And they also stressed, or had a huge interest in white wheat. And I think that comes from the issue that they had in the Pacific Northwest last year with the GMO in their wheat. And they're very conscious of genetically modified wheat. And my personal thinking is that they will have complete acceptance when there are food riots and they have no food and there are people out demanding food, and then it will be accepted worldwide. Another thing we were up to, last week we hosted a conference in Calgary called Seeds of Innovation. The original title was Wheat Summit, but that was copyrighted by the Western producer. So we had to change the name to Seeds of Innovation. And it was an invitation-only event where we brought together plant breeders, millers, seed producers, farmers, as many people as we could in the industry together in one room to sort of make sure everybody's going on the same path. Which brings me back to Martin Perry's speech as well, is that profits are everything. And a couple of the consensus? Things everybody agreed on. Consensus, thank you. A couple of the consensus points that we agreed on was there has to be sustainable profitability for everybody involved in the wheat industry. And that's everybody from plant breeders and of course farmers, millers, seed growers, everybody involved. And if there's a part of the industry that's not making a profit, it is a disaster for everybody. You don't agree? Sustainable, yes. Another point that everybody sort of zeroed in on is that there's a lot of expectations being put on Cereals Canada, another new organization that's just getting off the ground with Greg Prosny as the general manager, just elected the general manager. And the sort of consensus was that we want it to be a clearinghouse of information, and we don't want people working at cross purposes. We don't want somebody from Alberta going to Indonesia selling Alberta wheat, and then 2 weeks later, somebody from Manitoba coming saying, oh, don't buy that crap, buy Manitoba wheat. So we want sort of an overlord to make sure everybody is working towards the same goals. And a lot of that was put onto the shoulders of Cereals Canada, and they are working on a plan now. I do have a little bit of update on our research programs, and so I didn't want to forget anybody. I have a cheat sheet for this. Projects that we have funded. Currently supported research. Stacking agronomic practices with Sherry Stridehorse in the AARD. Biology and management of glyphosate-resistant kochia with Bob Blackshaw, AFFC. Preliminary in-crop nitrogen with Dune Poly, AARD. National Wheat Improvement Project with the Wheat Cluster as part of Growing Forward 2. greater economic returns, and enhanced ecosystem services through the expansion of winter wheat product, AIP. It's part of Growing Forward too as well. Being a new organization, last year being our first year, it was sort of a hard decision to decide on which research project we wanted to invest in. We want to be good stewards of the money of Alberta wheat producers, and we didn't want to invest money willy-nilly. So a contingency fund was built up because some research projects take 3 or 4 years. And heaven forbid there be a drought sometime in the future when no wheat is produced and we have no income coming in to fund the research projects. We wanted to have a contingency fund to make sure that any projects are well funded within the 3 or 5 year time frame. And for next year's funding, there are 40 projects involving wheat that are proposed, and they're being studied right now, and the announcement on funding will come in the spring. And I'm sure the researchers are waiting patiently for announcements. An upcoming event, right now my calendar is day by day. I wake up in the morning and I check my calendar to see what I have. The whole month of November is some event almost every day. Upcoming events, we have one regional meeting left in Vegreville, and I believe it is next week. I'll check my calendar the day before. And the AGM at Farm Tech in Edmonton on January 28th. And that's about all for a quick update. I will tell you a little bit about myself in the remaining minute. So I did say I was in Japan. My wife is Japanese, and she's the boss. And when I retired from farming, she made me go back and live there. And I was a visiting professor in the computer science department at an engineering school. And after many years of living there and crying to my wife every night, I want to go back to Canada, I want to get into agriculture, she finally agreed. And we came back to God's country about 2.5 years ago. And I'm so excited to be back in agriculture and so excited to be with the Alberta Wheat Commission. Thank you very much.